1969, humans first landed on the moon. And if you go back less than 2 generations, we had our first controlled flight. But what about all the unsuccessful attempts? Well, today in the Goon Cave, we'll be covering these failures. It's believed that the first man-made flying things were kites. There are written accounts dating back to 200 BC in China where they were used for measuring distances, playing, and of course, execution. The first weeaboo, Marco Polo, described how the Chinese would predict successful voyages by flying kites with men affixed to them after drawing straws. If the kite flies properly, then a prosperous voyage awaits. If not, the man is paralyzed for the rest of his life or dies. Chinese Emperor Gao Yang used this technology to execute prisoners. After seizing control of the Northern Wei dynasty and deposing the previous emperor, he imprisoned the heir along with a few others. Now, back in the day, they didn't have your Kerbal Space programs or Learn to Fly, so people had to make do. Gao Yang strapped kites to prisoners and flung them off of a 33-meter tower. Allegedly, Prince Yuan Huangtou was the sole survivor and flew 2.5 kilometers. But don't worry, he was then promptly captured and starved to death in captivity. On the bright side, in 559 AD, he earned his spot in history as the first man known to fly. Now, let's glide into our next topic. Abbas ibn Firnas is probably the most famous name in early aviation. He was an Arabic polymath from what is now Ronda, Spain. He has a long resume of significant inventions, but we're going to focus on his most famous flight attempt. At the age of 70, dressed in a feathered suit, Ibn Firnas flung himself from a tower with a primitive glider made of silk, wood, and feathers. At the age of 70, all my grandparents could do was buy up all the affordable subsidized housing and slowly vote out effective welfare policies. He glided for about 10 minutes before having an uncontrolled crash. Ibn survived with minor injuries and accredited the failure to a lack of a rudder, which he added in future designs, but never got a test. You know how parents won't let their kids watch certain media like Jackass so they don't hurt themselves trying to replicate what they see on television? Well, it turns out this has been happening for thousands of years. Brother Worthing, you won't believe this.
What is it, Brother Elmer?
There's this Greek boy, Icarus, who made wings of wax and feathers and achieved flight.
Preposterous! What a foolish concept!
Wait, this gives me an idea.
Brother Elmer, what on flat earth is floating above your head?
In the early 11th century, an English monk named Elmer of Malmesbury built a set of wings that he intended to fly with. After attaching the device to his hands and feet, Elmer jumped from a tower. Elmer flew for about 600 feet before losing control and crashing. He broke both his legs on impact and was unable to walk for the rest of his life. Funnily enough, he also blamed this failure due to a lack of a rudder for control. There are a bunch of stories of people making feather suits and gliders, but a lot of them lacked evidence or just flat out fictitious. I found 2 myths that probably didn't happen, but I'm obligated to share. 9th century BC, Bladud, king of the Britons, was communicating with spirits who gave him instructions on how to make wings out of feathers. He tested his invention by leaping off of the Temple of Apollo. Bladud has a crazy origin story. He contracted leprosy after visiting the lady boys of Thailand. His father got really pissed off that his son was now a leper and didn't bring him back any lady boys to share, so he kicked him out of the house. The exiled prince then became a swineherd and was pretty down bad, so he laid in the mud with his piggies. After getting up, his leprosy was miraculously cured by magical mud. And then his dad appeared from some bushes and was like, "Son, I am so proud of you for no longer having leprosy. Here's my crown." "Thanks, Pop. I will now make a set of wings and jump from a building and die." There's a tale involving the flight of John Williams, the Archbishop of York. At the age of 7, John decided to test if his cloak could be used as a parachute. Naturally, he jumped off the nearest bridge he could find, missed his bucket clutch, and landed directly on his balls. Now, I will say that John never had any children historically, so this might be true. Nonetheless, he went on to compose Star Wars and win many Oscars. Alright, let's get back to the real stuff. Istanbul, 1633. Lagari Hassan Celibi has finished constructing his latest invention, a 7-winged rocket fueled with Ottoman gunpowder that was probably harvested by enslaved Bulgarians. While rockets have been manufactured since the 1200s, no one has dared strapping one to themselves. But Hassan wants favor with the young sultan and seizes the perfect opportunity. During a festival celebrating the birth of Murad IV's daughter, Hassan presents his contraption to the sultan.
My Padishah, I have built you a rocket so that you may talk to the prophet, not the Messiah, Jesus, and ask him for more subs.
Okay. His assistants armed the machine and he soared 250 meters. When his fuel diminished, Hassan deployed wings and descended into the sea. It's recorded that Hassan swam up to the Sultan and said,
My Sultan, the prophet Jesus saluted you and wants you to follow Raegasm on Instagram and Twitter.
An ornithopter is a flying machine that achieves flight through flapping its wings. The idea of an ornithopter has been conceptualized for hundreds of years by the likes of Roger Bacon and Leonardo da Vinci, but it had never been done. But then it was done, successfully, many times. All done by the 3 most German-sounding names I've ever heard. But that's lame and uninteresting, so I'm going to talk about a goofy attempt that resulted in tragedy. Vincent de Groot was a Belgian inventor, painter, and shoemaker. He gained notoriety on June 8, 1873 in Brussels, where he tried to demonstrate his ornithopter to a crowd of over 100,000. He only managed to make it a couple feet off the ground before crashing back down. Unwavering, Groove hitched his device to a hot air balloon with a rope and attempted to take off once again, but then the rope snapped. The crowd erupted in a riot, dismantling his machines and pounded him with stones. De Groove recouped his losses and went back to the drawing board. The following year, Groove went to London, boasting that his prototype worked. Soon, the crowd grabbed their stones and once again gathered around to witness the spectacle. This time, the plan was simple. Attach the ornithopter to a balloon and cut loose from a high altitude. As the balloon ascended over London, the rope snapped once again. Caught between strong winds, he quickly lost control and was losing altitude. De Groove fell to the ground, suffering fatal injuries. And just like Icarus, he went on to appear in Super Smash Bros. Thank you for joining me in the Goon Cave yet again, and I'll see you guys around.
Ah! How did you get in here? Stop!